Hey everyone, what's going on? We are back talking about a lens for the Leica M Mount. Now this is not a Leica lens, but it's a lens a lot of my friends have purchased and they've been raving about it. I watched a lot of YouTube videos on it and I thought, I need to try this lens out. I need to see if all the hype, if this is legit or not. I gotta tell you, I'm very impressed. This is the 7 Artisans 35mm f1.4 for the M Mount. Let's talk about it. All right, so let's talk about this lens. On the Leica MP a la carte film camera, it looks beautiful. This is a stunning looking lens, guys. I'll be honest with you. 7 Artisans, you did a fantastic job in terms of design. I love the red color that you used on it. I love this Chinese character that is here on the hood. I cannot read Mandarin characters, so I apologize. Kai Hong, do you know what this says?
I can't see from here, but I'll let you know later.
Yeah, we'll put it here below the screen what it means. But I love the red accents, and of course it matches this Leica MP camera like a T. But the build quality on this lens is really impressive. By the way, if you're hearing thunder right there, that's not some special effects pack that we got and we're just throwing in sound effects for the heck of it. That's real thunder. It's gonna rain here very soon, but we gotta shoot, we gotta shoot. Okay, the build quality on this is really good. It's all metal construction, 404 grams. It has some weight to it. It feels like, it has a very Leica-esque feel to it. Now, it's not the same exact build quality as a Leica Summilux, but to be frank with you, every person that's picked up this lens that I've given it to has been like, wow, this is really nice. This feels good, and these are all Leica collectors. So if it's coming from people like that, and even myself that does shoot with Leica, 7 Artisans, you did a great job with it. But in terms of the aperture ring, I mean, there is a slight click, but I think 7 Artisans, you could give it a little bit more click. You know, a little bit more tension would be fantastic. Because sometimes I do see myself knocking it out of 1.4 to 2 to 4 very easily. I wish we had a little bit more tension on that. But it's not a deal breaker, it's just something you need to take consideration of. Now, in terms of the lens hood, I like that it's built in. It has this very reminiscent of the Summilux that I've used before. However, it's not a turn and lock, it's turn and it just keeps turning. And I wish there was a turn and lock feature to this, and obviously you got to turn lock so the logo stays dead center, because that's important. But again, not a deal breaker, it's just something to take into consideration. But I'm sure in the future, a variance of this lens, maybe 7 Artisans, maybe you could just add a little bit of lock to there, that would be great. But let's talk about optical performance. Now inside of this you have 10 elements, 9 groups. You've got various different glass in there. Unfortunately, I couldn't understand the website in terms of the Mandarin language. My Mandarin is a little bit rusty, but it looks like there's some pretty decent glass behind this lens. Your minimal focusing distance is 0.7 meters, just like Leica glass out there. Filter diameter is 49 millimeters as well, so keep that in mind if you want to use any ND filters, because if you're going to shoot with film, you better get an ND filter for this, because at 1.4, you're going to need it. Besides that, it's about the image quality. And the one thing I'll tell you about before we go into Lightroom is that the image quality has a really interesting character to it. It reminds me of the pre-spherical 50 Summilux and 35 Summiluxes out there that I've used in the past. It has that look to it, where the bokeh is a little bit busy, has a little bit swirl to it. Some people like this, some people don't. I personally love it. That is what people call the Leica look, is what we used to get out of those old lenses, and that's what you're seeing out of the 7 Artisans 35 1.4. So, and you know what's also great is that you don't have to put it onto a Leica camera. You can adapt it. I have a Panasonic Lumix S1R I've been testing. I've adapted to that. The Fujifilm X-S10, which looks great on that as well. So anyway, I'm going to show you pictures right now in Lightroom to give you an idea of the optical performance this lens can bring to your images, and in terms of sharpness, in terms of bokeh and all that great stuff. So let's go into Lightroom right now. Check it out. All right, guys, we're now in Lightroom taking a look at images from the 7 Artisans 35 1.4. Now, the camera that I used for this test was the Lumix S1R. Wanted to see how this lens rendered 47 megapixels, and I was very, very impressed. You'll see some of the sample images right here. Let's look at a portrait shot here of this gentleman, and he was very kind to stand for us and allow us to take his photo. He was moving out of his home here, so a lot of the pictures you'll see through this test are environmental and street photography shots. We were documenting this older neighborhood in Singapore. People are moving out because they're going to build condos there, and so we wanted to capture this because these are some of the rare and older neighborhoods we find nowadays in Singapore. Everything is very modern. And anyways, let's look at the image of him. Now, this is very sharp. I nailed focus on this, really happy with the turnout on this. And you can see the hair is sharp, his face is sharp. This is shot at 1.4. And you've got some fall off on here. Of course, when you get into the fall off, you're going to see a little bit of aberration here, some purple fringing, a little bit of green fringing there. That is the nature of this lens, and you'll see it through various different images here. It renders like a vintage 35 Summilux from Leica. Of course, at a price point that is far below a vintage 35 Summilux. Again, you're going to get that type of rendering. So if you don't like a very busy bokeh, if you don't like an image that has a lot of green and purple fringing, again, you can correct this in Lightroom and Capture One. You know, it might not be the lens for you, but if you like a little bit of character, you like something different to your images from all these modern lenses out there, you might find yourself really enjoying this lens. And I did. I was very surprised at how sharp it was in the center where I was nailing focus. Very surprised, but I loved the bokeh and how it looked. Let me show you an example of the bokeh on this. Now, these are some trees in the background here of this deity. They were moving into this lorry or truck, as we call it in America. But look at this. You can see it's really kind of busy back here. You see the little bit of, it's more of a cat's eye, not really circular. This is a 1.4, but this is sharp here where I was focusing. But everything else, the fall off on it, a little bit of vignetting, you know, it's busy, but it has character. And it's got this 3D pop to it that I really, really like. Okay, let's look at another image here, just in terms of the bokeh, because the bokeh is really what makes this lens very interesting, of course, because, you know, in the center, it's sharp. 47 megapixels, this lens handles it beautifully. No issues at all with that. As you can see right here with these lanterns, but in the background, you see the bokeh here. It's a little swirly, has a little bit of this vibe to it that I personally really like. I keep saying that over and over again because I really do. Some might not, but I really enjoyed it. Let's look at another image here. Let's look at this black and white image of these two gentlemen in this lorry here looking at me. And one thing about this lens is that if you don't like that purple or green fringing, you know, turn your images to black and white. As you can see right here, it renders beautifully. This gentleman is sharp. He's in focus. You know, I edited this in Capture One. I brought it into Lightroom because I wanted to see the color differences between Capture One and Lightroom. And I'm really happy with the tonality that I got out of this with Capture One. Let's look at this. You know, got to do the hipster shot with the abandoned chair by a dumpster because we always have to have that in some of these Leica images. I'm joking, of course, guys, but here it is. You can see the texture in the fabric. It's sharp, 1.4. You can see the bokeh, the separation in it, but the chair just pops, really stands out on its own. Now, let me show you a little bit about what I'm talking about, the green fringing on this. Now, so here's my friend Willie. We're walking down this back alleyway of these homes, and he's in focus, but if I look here, you're going to see some green fringing coming about in this area here. Now, you can fix this in Lightroom just to a certain degree. It's not 100%, but you can fix a lot of it. And what you can do here is you can just sort of, if you want to really nail it down, take this, highlight the green, then you can just go in here and you can adjust it and try to remove that as much as you can. And it does a decent job with that. Of course, if you really want to get into some more detail with it, you can do that. You can just go in with a masking brush and get rid of the green itself. But Capture One, unfortunately, does not get rid of green fringing, only purple fringing. So that's why I had to use Lightroom for this. Again, it's part of the characteristics of this lens. It's not a perfect lens. It's a $400 US lens, but I am very happy with how it's rendering. And that's why I really like this lens. And for a lot of people out there, I'm really happy with how this lens renders. And the images that I'm getting out of it, I have to say, are very impressive, especially at 1.4. So anyway, let's go to my final thoughts with the lens. Okay, final thoughts on the lens. As you saw in Lightroom, the image quality is actually pretty good. I mean, it's sharp. It's not the sharpest lens out there, but it's sharp enough, especially at 1.4. Of course, when you stop it down, it does get sharper. But I love the bokeh. I love that character to this lens. I love vintage lenses anyway. Personally, for me, I love it because it's just different from all the great, you know, perfect lens that we're seeing out there in the mirrorless market these days. So something like this is sort of it's like your dessert. You know what I mean? Use the other lenses for work, but this is your dessert. And I just love it. I mean, yeah, you're gonna get some chromatic aberration as you see, and yeah, you're gonna get some swirls, and it's gonna be a little bit, you know, imperfections here and there, but that's the joy of it, you know what I mean? And it resolves well on, let's say, a 47 megapixel camera, a 24 megapixel camera, so, you know, whatever mirrorless camera system you have, you wanna adapt it to it, you can do that as well. And I gotta hand it to 7 Artisans. I really like this. I mean, there's really not much to complain about. You're looking at a lens that's $429 US, okay, versus a few $1,000s. So, you take that in consideration when you're purchasing this. But it's a fun lens and it doesn't break the bank. It looks great on a Leica camera. And as you saw by the images, it renders pretty well. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the 7 Artisans 35mm 1.4. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What else would you like to see from 7 Artisans? What other lenses would you like us to review? Let us know in the comment section below. Like always, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube. Be safe out there, have a great holiday season, and we'll chat to you soon. Take care.